Apocalypse is a mutant born back in the day. Look how he's dressed. He was a mutant, but he was put into slavery because he was abandoned by his appearance by his folks at birth. He was destined not to be in slavery long because of his abilities helped him be able to overthrow those that are enslaving him. That's like the beginning of his evolution of changing throughout the years. He's got the survival of the fittest type of mentality. Apocalypse is a man that's been around for a while. In earlier days, they used to mistake him for different Egyptian type deities. The Aztecs called him different things, like he was known as a myth to different places around the world. In India, he was known as something else, known as Kali, hailed like a deity, Apocalypse. It's been set up a lot in his career that dominance is his birthright because his power is beyond comprehension. When it comes to his lore, he's a being that's not meant to be a slave, and he's always meant to rule, a conqueror. This can give you some background on him with all this Egyptian prophecy type stuff. He's just not meant to be a slave of other men. When it comes to his intellect, it's implied Apocalypse is definitely a genius or very smart. He's a very open-minded type of character because he will even get into stuff like magic because he's always expanding and trying to increase his knowledge, like because he operated on and experimented on Morgan Le Fay, one of the top tier magic users of Marvel Comics. It's scans like this nobody really pays attention to, but you can kind of see where his thought process is and how intellectually smart he is based on how he talks about the universe and different aspects about the universe. Apocalypse is a being that can speak every human language, even French. He's knowledgeable on the astral plane. He's always fighting powerhouses, so it makes sense that he studied them beforehand to get an understanding of how they roll. He's smart enough to know the personalities of the different characters and dominant personality traits of each character, so he knows where these alliances aren't making sense, to where he knows somebody else is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Like certain people just ain't gonna work together, and he deduces that. This is some serious critical thinking. He claims to specialize in biochemistry. He even has prophecies to say he's going to be the most powerful being on the planet. You know he has to be great. He's just known to be a deity and a child destined for greatness. He is referred to as a being who is the first mutant, the warrior god in blue. This is known about him multiple times. He is a being that is the embodiment of natural selection, survival of the fittest, but also a product of it. Even Skyfathers like Odin don't want to interfere when Apocalypse is coming and causing shenanigans because they made a pact to not interfere with celestial stuff. You know, one of Apocalypse's standard gear is the celestial armor and stuff of that such. Apocalypse is a being known as the cosmic pharaoh. One could say Apocalypse is a man that has a lot of destiny or some crap. He is a man that's prophesied to be powerful enough to defeat Rama Tut. You know who that is? Kang the Conqueror in disguise. Kang the Conqueror's opinion about him, aka Rama Tut's opinion about Apocalypse, is that he's a being beyond his or ahead of his time, a being with near infinite potential. Apocalypse is a being that controls his body to the point where he can rearrange his molecules as the way it suits him, shape-shifting, making himself have different weapons, all that kind of good stuff. He's a being that was augmented by Celestials, on top of his already crazy mutant ability. Getting empowered by such beings, he was gifted with extra technology. Celestial tech is part of the reason why he's such a threat to the powerhouses. Yeah, all this celestial gear and all this stuff was believed to be indestructible. Apocalypse is one of those characters where different writers or artists can have their way with him when it comes to the way he looks or their interpretation of him. There's a lot of times where he looks like a man with a whole bunch of wired techie type of stuff around him, but then he can look like this, which is one of my favorite looks, more on the Egyptian-esque type side, like in this particular comic occasion when he was younger against this huge snake, you know, that kind of thing. Apocalypse is one of those extremely versatile type characters, but he has a lot of physical strength as well, but he's actually skilled, like when it comes to raw fighting skills. It's hard to believe when characters are this strong, but he actually has skills with a blade, having straight up full-blown sword duels, which is something a lot of people are not used to seeing. You see on this occasion use them kind of blades. He's not afraid of using them. Oh, well, you know, another sword type of occasion to show that he's very skilled at sword type of combat. Young type of Apocalypse that had long hair during his early days, even showing his skills versus Cable, whether it be a sword or a battle axe. He has knowledge on things as such. In this occasion, while Young counters two armed opponents, having them hurt each other. He's good at improvisation, like grabbing some random sand to get the jump on his opponents. Yeah, look at these little short swords, or one could say daggers. He can use these weapons. Apocalypse is the type of being that was born a long time ago. He has a lot of battle experience, born 5 full millennia ago. You can get an idea of his physical might when you see him face off against other powerful beings, like literally having the grip to hold Loki in his place, or fighting one of the poster boys of strength, Thor himself, and he can hit him so hard to where shockwaves go for miles. His spine will not endure another like that. Against beings like Thor, it was stated that attacks on this level will remove his skull from the spine. Powerhouses like Icarus he can hold in his arms. Same with one of the poster boys of raw strength, the Hulk himself, restraining him. Even She-Hulk. Not only is Apocalypse known to be a being of awe-inspiring power, but he has plenty of writer intent to be one of the top-tier threats for the X-Men, stated right here, and confirmed to be X-Men's greatest foe, apparently. It's a reason why he's called the Mutant, a High Lord. You got to get an idea of Apocalypse's strength by Kang the Conqueror's opinion. This is Ramatut. Kang the Conqueror in disguise, saying that Apocalypse is ahead of his time and he has near infinite potential. Beings like High Evolutionary, with all this strength, it's no surprise he can rip off heads like it ain't nothing. Yikety yike yikes. Apocalypse is totally dripped out right here, but you see this big old snake. Just because it's big doesn't mean he can't rip it apart with his raw strength. He's not afraid to grab beings like Cyclops and just toss them as he wishes. Even if it's a whole lot of snakes that surround an Apocalypse, he doesn't care if it's a lot. They will still put in that work and get him all off of him. Makes his own hole in the wall by throwing stone at it. You try to restrain him in some vines, he has the raw strength to bust out. Beings like Polaris, who's Magneto's daughter, that have similar powers to Magneto, even used her abilities of magnetism against Apocalypse. Despite all of this, yeah, you can literally see it for yourself, all these restraints. It was even stated by Polaris herself, he's so strong, can't hold him. She's another powerhouse level being like Magneto, so this is respectable. When you have this kind of strength, it makes sense for your punches to be hard, like Apocalypse he punches, like Colossus he punches. Plant-like creatures he can punch to death or beat the living snot out of them with his bare hands. He did this while he's literally dying, deteriorating, losing power. Punches Iceman's ice apart, no problem hitting Iceman. Among his other abilities, like being able to change his size, one could say him being able to change his fist size on top of his already crazy strength, one can argue can make his punches even worse, like in this occasion with Icarus, the Eternal. Yes, this Icarus, but comic book version. He can steal off on. Look how big and bulky he looks right here. Bye-bye, High Evolutionary. You get tossed. Omega level mutants like Iceman try to freeze him solid, he can just bust out. Beast, I can make my hands into hammers to smash you. And he's known for backhands, kind of like Thanos. He's strong enough to solo armies on his own. Just because you have numbers on your side doesn't mean crap. Before he became known as Apocalypse, he was already strong enough to do stuff that was out of the ordinary, like pulling this, when you can see others being too to do it. Yeah, early Apocalypse, his power kind of developed throughout the years because in young times he wasn't like almighty like he is now. On top of his strength, he can shapeshift and turn his body into all sorts of weapons like cannons. He can adjust his molecules to match beings like Shadowcats, beings that can go intangible. He can stop her from phasing and counter her that way. Shapeshifts into some sort of blower, a fan, can dodge attacks by reshaping his body or getting elastic arms or stretchy arms. Give himself an extra limb to make his fighting more unpredictable. Look at all them fists coming from his chest to attack you. Here, he's actually using it conveniently to make a stretcher for somebody. In this occasion with the Sentinels, he makes a gun to shoot them with, like he has projectiles. Can we just call him a rubber man at this point? This is straight up cheating. He already grappled Icarus, then stabbed him by making a blade in his chest, or dodged an attack by making his body open so the attack go right through him. Large fists to punch beings like Quicksilver. Even powerhouses like Namor, he makes a little blade with to fight like this with stretchy arms. He can straight up look the way he wants. Yeah, when I say looking like different people, he can definitely look different when he feels like it. Loki even blitzed him, made his head literally long, makes his hands into jetpacks. In this occasion, he makes his leg into rocket boosters, shapes his hand into like a hook, makes his hands into clamp-like things. Along with jet-like stuff, the classic hammers he can make his shapes into. One could say defensive shields. His large shield seems to be able to protect him from powerhouses like Iceman. Like, look at this mess. You don't know how he's gonna fight you. Let's duel with lances. Swords, axes, hammers, or both at the same time he will do. You see, in this occasion, he has a battle axe, guns, or here he has dual blades, or mace, or giant claws, or multiple tendrils at the same time to battle multiple people at the same time. He uses this a lot to restrain different beings in plays. Mighty beings like Jane Foster, who are Thor level, he can restrain with his arms. And if he doesn't shapeshift his limbs, he can miraculously make a hammer pop up out of the blue when he wants to. So he always got a weapon, bro. Seems to have a lot of blowing power to where he can cause devastation with his breath. So you know he's strong enough to battle powerhouses like Icarus, even in old stuff, new stuff. It doesn't matter. He can make his limbs hard enough or big enough to where he can affect them badly. Have a literal slugfest high difficulty fight to where he kind of had to retreat after stabbing him here, shapeshifting against the Eternal. He has the power to almost kill Thor level beings with his strikes. One of his most famous displays of strength doing this to Hulk, until he just actually decided to let him go. It lets you know his might compared to the heaviest hitters of Marvel Comics. Yeah, I know it's cool seeing Apocalypse and Hulk hanging out. Ain't it satisfying? satisfying. One of his more flashy battle feats is fighting two Thors at the same time, Thor Odinson and Jane Foster Thor, with a combination of everything put together, fighting them for an extended amount of time. But I will admit, this is one of those fights that actually did eventually overwhelm Apocalypse, but the fact he's fighting two powerhouse level threats that's a constant and right intently constant threat for the entire X-Men group, they did take him down after all this effort, but this is still impressive. So it's pretty much confirmed he's definitely Thor level at this point. Same with being a standard Hulk level being. We didn't even really get on his blast power, which is crazy on top of all this stuff he can do. Yeah, he can just straight solo you without even pulling out no guns, just with straight energy blast. Yeah. So his punches are crazy and his blast. Here he blasts Rogue and Havoc. He can put energy on his strikes when he palm strikes you to increase his literal punches. I actually feel bad for all of these soldiers he just blasts. He can blast Beam Struggle with Invisible Woman. His blasts knock out Storm and Beast. His blasts are so mighty that even characters like Jean Grey, when they try to block it, it actually drains their entires are out. I already showed him battling Thor's, but yeah, he uses energy blast against Thor. Yes, even eye blast power. He doesn't have just energy blast, but like, yeah, that's early him with different hair. He can actually control energy and guide it if he needs it to. But like I was saying, he has other type of energy projective type of abilities, like full-blown telekinesis to the point he would just carry you if he has to. Yeah, he'll carry you. This island that was sunk and messed up, he can lift it out of the water. He can use the telekinesis in precise ways to put stuff back together or take it apart precisely. Or he can use it on some blast power stuff to like make the ground fight you. Can cut off your airway with some force choke type stuff. Or use blast power to straight disintegrate you. Being powerful like Exodus, he can trap in a bubble. Combined lightning attacks from Thor and Jane Foster he can withstand. Cable, a being that has a technovirus that usually suppresses him, he can withstand all-out attacks from beings like this on a powerhouse level when the virus was going nuts. Slugfest style with him. Even Strife, a being I have a video about, which is basically another Cable, which is crazy. He can withstand attacks from a Cable that's not weakened. He can catch energy swords with his bare hands. Loki's magical blast power. Energy sword or normal sword, it don't matter. A kinetic enhanced punch by Gambit he can stop. Cyclops, a being that can level mountains, he can block his blast with his hands. Bishop, Storm, and Jean Grey show their blast power against him. His writer intent just wants him to be on their tier. When it comes to the powerhouses of the X-Men, he should automatically be on that level. Straight hit in the face by the hammer from Thor, and slices from other super weapons, and he's okay. He can withstand blasts from beings like Black Bolt. He's one of those characters where he's hard to kill permanently. He would just keep resurrecting in a new body, soul transferring type stuff. It's contingency type stuff he plans for. Part of the reason he's so powerful is because even if you do damage him, or if you blast a limb off, he would just grow another one. Like on some Piccolo stuff. As long as there's a piece of his essence that exists, he will always keep surviving because of his essence can just find a new host shell. His body remains intact. He can be placed in regenerative chambers, blah, blah, blah. Well, he'll always be able to come back, even if it's one little piece of his blood remaining. Or if there's scenarios where he needs to regenerate even faster, he can absorb the energy nearby to help reconstitute himself even better. Like he has safe homes that he can go to get energy to help reconstitute himself faster. He has some decent reflexes. When people throw stuff at him, he catches it mid-flight. It's hard to hit him because he can shapeshift to help himself dodge or just dodge normally. When Thor threw something at him, he catches it mid-flight. Beating him with speed isn't necessarily an end-all be-all because Apocalypse literally says your speed is useless against a mutant who can control his every molecule. Attacks like this he dodges. Bullets coming at him, he catches them with his mouth mid-flight and blasts them back. Even catches a sniper bullet before it can hit him. Telepathy type stuff he can withstand and shoot psychic type blast back. So he has telepathy. Or one can say psionic type abilities. He can read minds and all that cool stuff. He can do illusion type stuff. Yeah, straight illusions. What doesn't this guy have at this point? He can snap his fingers and kill you, can put you in a force field to protect you, can do some abilities to help heal your hands. When powerful Celestials give you a hand, you know you gotta be strong. But you probably didn't know he was this strong. There's actually a lot of powerhouse X-Men, and for him to be able to beat and overpower them and watch those videos of those X-Men on my said channel to get a better understanding of it, you really have no choice but to respect them. But what do you guys think? Do you think Apocalypse could possibly take on Thanos with enough prep time? I mean, he is very highly intellectual, and if he had time to study Thanos, I think he probably could, or maybe. I think we all can agree for the most part, he's definitely up there with our favorite powerhouses like Icarus, Hulk, Thor, blah, 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 Wonder Man, Magneto. One can even make an argument that he could be on some team busting type stuff. He's extremely hard to kill. He can shapeshift his hands and stuff and can attack you from all kinds of angles. He could bear hug you, then stab you from his chest while he's bear hugging you. And then decide to use some energy blast, make his hands into guns, or use telekinesis at the same time, or even go in your head and mind smack you. Or blow himself up to make himself have more mass to punch you harder. Or summon an extra hammer and blast you with a normal hand blast. Make himself more intimidating and look down on you. Some folks do believe he's a deity. Imagine fighting a guy with raw punches. He has Hulk and Thor level strength, then makes his fist into like a gun to blast you with out of the blue to catch you off guard. Uppercut you, then make his hand thicker to hit you with the gun on his hand or cannon. Then make a tentacle out of the blue if he wishes. Then drop kick you because he can actually fight. He can increase his mass to make an energy blast even bigger, make a vortex around you or some telekinesis stuff, or just sink you in the ground to where you can't move and you're helpless. And then just crush you or something. It's just so many ways you got to look at it. But before I get going, respect Apocalypse. Did you know he was this mighty? Thanks for the donations, everybody. Respect Apocalypse. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.